You're listening to the Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm your host, Michelle Fernandez, and joining me today is Candus Kampfer. As a little girl, Candus's favorite toy was her very own cash register, and she loved helping her parents with their trucking business. Her love of business carried into adulthood as she found herself being groomed to be the CFO of a multi-million-dollar company. In time, she decided to go out on her own to help other business owners like you to grow a thriving business. Candus has grown her YouTube community, reaching millions of people, and has helped thousands of business owners and entrepreneurs with Quickbooks. Her inspirational teaching style helps keeping learning fun while instilling confidence that mastering QuickBooks actually is possible. You are in for a treat because today is all about mastering and maximizing QuickBooks for business owners. So stay tuned. Hey there, it's Michelle, and today we have Candus Kampfer joining me. Welcome to the show, Candus.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you on the show today because you really are just like this wealth of knowledge, all about not just like we're talking like making bookkeeping easier for entrepreneurs and kind of understanding your numbers, but even what we were just talking about before we hit record. I'm excited to really dive into that on how just numbers in general, what you're tracking for your launches, for your programs that you're putting out, and all that good stuff. So I think everybody's going to be in for a treat today. I'm so excited. Before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and doing what you do?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Candus Kampfer, and I teach QuickBooks specifically, usually for business owners. And I got started actually on a YouTube channel years ago. I was working with a business owner who was going through some life changes, actually my hairdresser, and she couldn't make any business decisions, which all of you are business owners, and like knowing your numbers is going to help you make decisions. And so long story short, I ended up, after I went to see her, she was going through divorce and trying to decide like what pivots to make in her business. And I showed her how to pull her reports, which she had been using QuickBooks for years. On the drive home, I was like, I bet there's a lot of other business owners who don't know how to get their data. I'm going to start creating how-to content. And I actually started with my YouTube channel.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's so funny because you totally hit the nail right on the head when you said a lot of other business owners don't know what they're looking at or don't look at it. Period. And I was telling you that I've been guilty about that. And I made a commitment to myself, especially this year, to do different things. Like now that I've been in business for a couple of years, like even comparing where I was last January to this January, or last quarter to, last year's quarter to this year's quarter, just so I could see like, where's it going? What am I doing? Because how many times do we get stuck in our head? Like, am I ever going to get there? Or nothing's ever going to happen. But it's kind of cool to see the progression of, oh yes, I have improved from last year. You know what I mean? Because we're so close to it.
I also think that it's a habit that we want to grow. And so as we grow, we forget where we came from. So I think it could go in both directions. Like you don't realize how much you are growing, but then sometimes like your business can really grow. And sometimes you still are thinking, but I still haven't reached this goal. Like I just need more. I just need more. And when you actually look back historically as well, you can really pinpoint like, oh my, we really have grown. We really have changed, and to celebrate that all along the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first let's just dive into like QuickBooks stuff. So what is the benefits of using a system like QuickBooks versus, manually, like either keeping a spreadsheet or writing things down, something like that?
Yeah. So we had a construction company actually. And I remember when we first took it over from my father-in-law, he had always done like the hand bookkeeping, the shoebox method. And what we really realized is when you do that, there's so many things that fall through the cracks. So one of the benefits, no matter how you track your numbers, is having the data to make it not just decisions throughout the year, but also at tax time easier, right? So when you use a software, whatever software you use, it will give you reports. And we've been kind of already talking about that, like using reports to compare old data, but within just a couple clicks, as long as you're keeping up with your data, you can go back and like look at things quickly versus be like, hold on, let me add all those receipts together, or let me take that Excel spreadsheet and I want to know this time, so I need to do a formula. It does all of that for you.
That's beautiful. And I will say, what I also like about this, and I could be tell me if I'm wrong, but what I like is that sometimes there's these like little expenses, or maybe something that I bought, like a tool or a resource or something that I bought for, like, you know, even if it was just like $250, or sometimes it's $2,000. And it's like, wait, I don't even use that anymore. And yet it keeps renewing. So by having these spreadsheets written down, it really helps you dial in on what expenses you could be paying for that you may not even need anymore. And that will help you obviously lower your expenses, increase your profits and stuff like that. Do you
Definitely.
find?
So yeah. So what the benefit of what you're talking about is being able to go back and go back and see like a total of what you've spent per like maybe a category, as an expense category, and then saying like, do we still need that? Is that actually benefiting us? That's one of the things I love to teach is like, say you're using Facebook ads, right? Or you're using anything. Is that actually producing profit? Whatever you are using to bring in the traffic.
I love this. What is one or a common mistake that most QuickBook users make when they first get started?
I'd say thinking you need to use all areas of the software. So whenever you buy something new, you just think like, oh, it can do all these amazing things. That's what I need to use it all. And one of the things I love to teach is actually to simplify it. You can track, for example, in QuickBooks, you can track your income in different ways, but you don't need to be using all of them. So it's about aligning your business model, what you do specifically, with how you track it. So I say, for example, in construction, there could be 3 general contractors, but they don't all need to be using the QuickBooks the same way. Or course owners, all of you might have different products that you're selling. The way you design QuickBooks, it's going to depend on how much time you have and what you actually want to see. I always say start with the end in mind, which is like know what you want to see in the end and then build the software or use only the features that are going to give you that end result versus wasting time on things you're never going to use.
Okay, to that point, when we're talking about, let's just say this is something I see where a lot of, especially when you first get started, I think a lot of online business owners, they feel like they need to have like all the courses, right? Or sometimes what ends up happening that I see certain clients is like they have maybe one low ticket, but then they have a lot of like, let's say $497 or $297 offers. They kind of, instead of having the Ascension model, they end up going wide. And is that, wide. So it would be kind of cool to have this broken down instead of lumping, let's say, all the income in courses. Maybe you have it broken down and say, okay, well, wait, are all these courses actually making me money? Am I actually generating revenue and profitable somehow? And what can I get rid of?
Yeah, I get excited. Like I'm having to contain myself. So now I don't interrupt you. Yes. So one of the things I teach, or one of the things I would say to do, no matter what software you use, is create what I call buckets. So like per course, you should really have like every one of your courses typically broke out where that income is showing. One of the things I specific to QuickBooks that I teach is also like, you might have different tickets, like maybe you have like a full pay price and you have a 6-pay option and a 12-pay option per program. You can actually go in and add the details. So you have a bucket of your overall program, but then you can go in and say, which of our different price points is selling more? How much did we bring in just from full pays and how many did we have and how many 12 or 6? The reason is the more you want to make sure you don't get too much detail, but that you get enough detail that you can make decisions. So you can say, are people actually taking us up on our 6-pay? Are we having more people taking us up on our 12-pay? Do we maybe need to adjust not just the program, but the offer that we give within that program? So like one of the things we do always on our debriefs for our launch debriefs is we always say how many people bought each of our different price. And so we can kind of see like, was it more full pay this time or 6-pay? Anyway, so there's just like different levels that you can track. But I do recommend summarizing your income by your different products in total of the course. And then if you do want the more detail, you can go in and add that extra level of the payments and things like that.
I love that. I would imagine the same thing with the expenses. So let's say with one of them, I sell with a webinar and I'm paying for, Easy Webinar or, Webinar Jam, whatever those expenses. I mean, I know I'm getting super technical, but you could be paying for a webinar platform. And if your webinar is not converting or that product is not selling as much as one that you don't need the webinar for whatever reason, right? Then that could be something we evaluate as well.
Yeah. So I wouldn't track the way I would design it. I wouldn't track it specific to like that webinar is for that course, but you know that in the back of your head. So you're saying, how much is that program making? And then you're like, that program doesn't really work. Well, what software and what expenses are allocated to that? Are we making profit? So I typically recommend looking at your profit and loss monthly, depending on if you have launches. So if you have a big launch and you had Facebook ad spend leading up to it, but you didn't actually generate the revenue, you might be looking at more like quarters. So you kind of want to go between the two, like looking at the month, but also looking at the quarter. But you also just want to look at the promotion in general to say, like, is that promotion? So like, for example, I use Zoom for my webinars, but I use Zoom for all different kinds of things. So I can't just say like that product is allocated to Zoom. It's kind of like all the different meetings, all of my coaching calls, like all the different things I use Zoom for. So that's why I said it's more about, is that product profitable? Yes, there's expenses allocated, but that expense may be allocated to other areas of your business as well.
I love that. Oh my gosh, so good. And then I hope for everyone listening, whether you're a numbers person or not, like this is like vital to growing your business, right? And more importantly, like becoming profitable in your business, because that's what we all really need. We can make 7 figures all day long, but if we're not profitable, we're like just working hard for nothing really, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to maximizing QuickBooks to help grow your business, like how can we do that?
So one of the things I would recommend is the things that are directly increase with your business. So for example, Facebook ads is what you're paying for to generate a sale, right? But if you're renting office space, that doesn't increase or decrease with how much you are selling. So it would be when you set up your profit and loss, there's something in most software, it's called cost of goods. And most people, like, they don't even know that exists. But what it does is it moves your expenses up further on the profit and loss. So it'll actually, I wish I could show you right this second, but visualize it for those of you who are visual. You have your income, and then below that you have the things that increase. So like merchant fees, they go up with your sale. Facebook ads, have those up above so that you can actually say, what is our true profit before we spend all the rest of this money and the other things that we just have to have, right? So like webinars are just a cost you're going to have whether you actually made a sale or not today, but your merchant fees and those kinds of things increase. So the closer you can get to seeing like what's our true profitability before everything else will help you decide like what you need to change, whether it's Facebook ads or something else, or what to focus on for your sales specifically, like the product. So one of the things to really focus on is saying, what is the product that I love delivering, right? Because we want to love what we're doing, but that is also a very profitable product. Whether you need a ton of people in it or a few, but overall it's profitable, something you love. And then go back and start looking at your different expenses, because it is common to choose software, choose a membership, choose some training program that you joined that you no longer need, and going back and taking a little time to look at those and say, you know, that's actually not our best bet. Now, I do want to say one thing. I remember when I first started, I joined like Infusionsoft and like all of these different platforms. And then I didn't really need them and they were too advanced for where I'm at. So then I went and I simplified and I did like a WordPress plugin from, like all these different things to simplify it. And then I was like, you know what, I just need Kajabi because it can do so much. So I think sometimes we tend to think, I don't want to spend the money today because I'm not making the profit. And then we end up giving ourselves a lot of work in the future. So I think there's a balance between saying, what is the one software that's going to help me do a lot of things, or the thing I can use right now that I know I'm leveraged, but that is still affordable, but is also going to grow with me. I think there's a little balance within that I would love to inspire others to consider.
Yes, totally agreed. I've been there and I've seen people do it, right? Or they even like, let's just take Kajabi, because Kajabi, you can send emails and stuff too. But some people have an issue with that, right? Because for whatever reason, it doesn't get delivered. And it's like, they don't want to get, let's say, a convert kit to go along with it, and it's like, if that's simpler for you or whatever, if you're using ClickFunnels and you have your own separate email, like just do, because it will definitely save you time and money and heartache in the long run, right? I know someone who's using, and I won't say the name of the platform, but it's one of those all-in-ones, and the emails never get delivered. It's like a whole hot mess. And I don't even think that you can integrate it with any other email software. So
Mm.
although it seemed inexpensive at the time and like a perfect fit, now she's having all this other heartache with it and had to hire whatever. So definitely take that advice true to heart. Okay, when we were talking earlier, you were talking about like tracking, which is, I love doing this. So, and you started to explain it. So I'm not even going to ask you the question. You just go right for it when you're talking about during your launches.
Okay, so you want me to talk about like the difference between how we track our organic traffic versus our Facebook ads so that we know our true profitability?
Yes.
So what we do in our business is we track organic traffic separate from Facebook ads so that we truly know, because what happens is you can do your EPL, your earnings per lead equation, or you can do your cost per lead. But your earnings per lead can get kind of muddy if your organic traffic, meaning those people that naturally found you, you have a podcast, you have a social media platform, and they decide to buy, versus somebody that you've paid, whether you're using Google ads, Facebook ads, or doing Instagram type ads. So we have separate, how we do it is we actually have different landing pages. And so they come in, we add tagging, and then we can go back and we can do an equation. We say, okay, how much did we pay for that lead? And then how much do we actually earn on it? Something extra that I added for those of you who are numbers people this last time, I went in and I actually even tracked to the point where like, who showed up, were they organic or Facebook ads, and what was the earning per lead for that, like per workshop. And it was pretty cool because it just allows you, when you get nerdy like I am and you want to know the details, because as you grow, if you originally start your business and a lot of your leads are organic, you build a community and they purchase from you, and then you start adding Facebook ads, you may realize that that doesn't stay true. That same EPL doesn't stay true when you start adding cold traffic to it. So the more you can know what your cold traffic number is versus earnings per lead versus your organic, you can really start deciding what you want to spend in your Facebook ads, knowing what the true earnings per lead is, because when they're mixed, you can get some very different numbers than when you choose to start becoming more leveraged and scalable with ads.
I love that advice. That's something that we always talk about. I'm even adding it to the onboarding process, because I think what happens for me is I get like, oh, everybody knows this, and they don't, right? And so when it comes in, so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm sure you're doing is list building all the time, right? Do you run ads for your list building?
We are starting to. I will be honest, we aren't maybe as advanced as some people, but we're getting there. We're getting better. My husband actually does our ads, and we were just like, we're going to do leads. And he's like, okay, I need a PDF to do this. And we've tested a lot of different things. And, I think one of the keys is just being open to testing stuff, even putting some money behind it. Because like for us on our, what we have an evergreen workshop, the cost per lead is so different for us than when we do a big launch, because we're putting so much more money into it. And we could talk all about that later. And you could probably give us great advice, which would be awesome. But it's like, we do not do a lot of lead generation ads currently. It's something we're going to add though.
That's lovely, because and that's good, meaning like you have this strong organic, right, from your list that's coming through, where a lot of people, like I look at list building, or even some brand awareness video views and stuff more long-term, right? So you get them on your list and you're nurturing them, but they came to you on your list through an ad most of the time, let's say, and then let's say you go to launch. So now you're kind of targeting those warm people in an ads. Like a lot of clients go through like their warm audience so they could see, as well as cold.
Yes.
So when we're going to track that, do you recommend, like it would still go through the Facebook ad funnel, right? And then sometimes people say, well, the people who signed up or the people who joined are on my list already, right? So how, when you're looking at tracking that, how are you thinking?
Okay, so I will tell you, this is actually a great conversation, because my husband and I have had it. And I want to tell you a few things that we learned after we just completed a launch. So I'll share some like behind the scenes details with you guys. But we decided that we know when somebody comes in, like even if you're warm, there's all kinds of tags in there. And so we have a virtual assistant who goes back, and everybody who purchases during launch, we go back and we see like, how long have they been with us? When did they buy? Did they come from an ad in this launch? Or so we know when they choose to register for a workshop, how they come in, but we also know like all the other details about them before, because we add special tagging for like when all of that.
Mhm.
As far as like specific to a launch on the day that they registered for which workshop and what type of traffic, in case somebody re-registers, right? Because sometimes if you have multiple workshops, somebody will find you through Facebook ads, but then they re-register through organic. So the way we decided, we had a whole conversation, like, how are we going to choose if what we're going to give this credit to, if it's organic traffic or Facebook ads? And what we decided is anybody who registers for the workshop through Facebook ads, they're a Facebook ad person for our launch. Anybody else, even if they were Facebook ads at any point, we consider those organic upfront. So our EPL specific to that launch, was it Facebook ad generated for that launch specifically or organic? Yet, what we also did is we know if they ever had a Facebook ads tag from any, because let me tell you, we found there were people that joined on our most recent launch who had been with us for over 40 months and then chose to join, right? So one of the things to consider when we're thinking Facebook ads is we want to be profitable now on our Facebook ads, but there's so much, if you nurture and take care of your people and serve them, this just might not have been the right time for them. They will buy later. I couldn't believe this is one of the first times where we really went back and looked at that data, or how many launches somebody had been through before they purchased. And we had people who'd been through like 10 launches, 8 launches before buying this time. So we did our data off 2 facts. One, who registered in this exact launch, were they organic or ads, but then what were they before that? And so it gave us a bigger overall picture of how many may have purchased right now from ads, but who had ever come from an ad in the past as well. That answer your question?
Totally. And I have like 50 more, but I'm loving this because I'm going to ask you if you would be open to sharing like how you tag them, because this is always a thing that comes up for people, right? It's like, and I love the way you broke it down, and I think it's simple enough to do. But I think it's so important that you do go back and figure out, well, how many times does somebody need to see me to buy for me, right? Then that will tell you, like, I always look at everything as tracking and then figuring out how I can close the gap, right? So how do we take that 40 months to maybe 35 months to 30 months, like that? Like, just try to keep closing the gap on that. So I think tracking every little step is like critical, like to just speeding up the process, if you will.
Yeah.
And I do love because it's cool to see, like, well, where did they come in from? Was this somebody from the podcast, or was this somebody from here? Like, just to see like where you should also focus either your marketing dollars or spend your time or creating more content. Like, did they come in? I don't know how detailed you do it, but like, it could even be like, was I a guest on somebody else's thing? Was I on stage at this thing? And then it's like, okay, well, how can I get back on that? How can I create more content like I did on that particular episode or that Facebook Live or whatever it is, so you can get more people in?
So I find a balance between it. I'm a very like, let's find the balance. So I go, okay, one of the things we are really looking at in our business now is like what's working and what's not working. And when you first start, you're just kind of like, you're just scrapping it together and you just go for whatever works. So if that's where you're at right now and the things we're talking about feel a little overwhelming, just revisit this podcast when you're ready for it. Yes. Say, like, implement what you can and come back. Because we've been in business for enough years that we have built over time. Right. And so I didn't have this tagging when I first started, but the more I spent in Facebook ads, I was like, I really need to know what's going on. So I added it. So specific to your question, like, how do I do it?
Yes.
I use Kajabi for my landing pages. And when I create a form, I usually have 3 workshop dates and times available. And I actually have a way to automate specific. There's a little, like, a condition in there for those of you who are really techie that says when they picked this toggle, give them this tag. And it says the day that they registered for, which day they picked, and what type of form of traffic it is based off the landing page. So every landing page is a different form of traffic. And then I can tell that way is basically. And then what we do is we can go back in the history and just kind of look at like every launch we've done for the last like probably 7 launches, we have that data. So we know the different launches. We know, I go back and I add tags when I import people from Zoom. When they attend, I go back and I say, this person attended or they didn't attend. They clicked on a replay. They didn't click on a replay. The level of detail we track now is much more complex, but I can really pinpoint what's working and what's not. So for example, I went and I looked at some of the people. My VA does a lot of it, but I went in and I kind of wanted to look at some people she wasn't sure about. And I was like, oh my gosh, so many people wait until the last day to buy. What
Mhm.
email did they open that was the last trigger? Like
Right.
that's the level of depth. But as I'm saying, like, this may not be where you're at today, but it could be where you get to. So just to be patient with yourself. We add more all the time. I get like, ooh, you know what else? But as my husband said, it only the level of detail that actually helps you make a decision. If you're just tracking things to track things, that's not helpful for you at all. And that's one of the things I teach in QuickBooks all the time, which is like, I actually did a video I just posted on social media yesterday, but it's like, if your profit and loss is more than a page long, you're way overcomplicating things. Or if it takes you more than a normal amount of time, like you go in to add transactions and you're always like, well, do I want to put it here or do I want to put it there?
Right.
That's too complex. You want to be able to like, that's advertising, that's expense, this, that's this or that, that's meals and entertainment. It's like, you should be able to, you or whoever's doing your bookkeeping, be able to make decisions quickly by the data you have. So I just want to say, like, yes, data is good, but we want to make sure that we're not tracking so much data that so a specific thing that we did on the last launch that we're not going to do again is we did 2 different landing pages, one for bookkeepers, one for business owners. And in the end, it became almost more work for our team than what it actually benefited on our ads. But this is just all testing, having fun. And if it's not fun, then either find somebody else to help you do it so that you have the data to make a decision, or get somebody like Michelle to be like, these are the things you need to put in place, right? Because as you grow, these little things become very, very valuable. Because my husband's like, I don't know if we should still run Facebook ads. And I'm like, yeah, but over 114 people bought on our last launch from Facebook ads at some point. And he was like, oh, well, maybe they're not as bad as I think. So often we look at our CPL, EPL, and we go, oh, we're barely breaking even. But then when we look at the lifetime value of our customer, the long term, it's a very different picture. And you probably plan on being in business for many more years. Right. And this isn't just a get rich quick kind of thing. You want to serve your community and you're going to be here for a while. So with all those pieces in place, think long term and get the data so you can make those decisions is what I would say.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. So bring the data, not the drama. and then bring the data to bring the decision. And I do love that, because I think that without it, by far, you don't know how to make a decision, because you're like, well, so-and-so says this and so-and-so says that. Well, let's dive into what your data says. And that's brilliantly said. And if you can put some of those tags into place, like, why not? Right. So do you tag them with 2 tags, like Facebook ads and then this, or you, 2?
So the date of the day they registered on what webinar or workshop, it has FB at the end of it. So through FB, but then I also give them a general FB tag as well.
So then you can always go back and do that. I love that. And then how cool is that? Because then I'm sure you segment it. And then if you wanted to say, okay, these like to upload into audiences on Facebook, then now you have audiences too of segmented people. So I love that. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. Any other golden nuggets you want to share?
About numbers specifically, or just business, would you say?
Whatever you want. I mean, I just feel like it's all gold coming out of your mouth.
Thanks. I've been doing this for a little bit. Yeah. I would just say, if you can, so these are some of the things in general I would say about business. If you can find the thing that is your passion and you're great at it, that you can also serve people with, to do that more. What I mean specifically, for clarity, is like when I first started doing QuickBooks, my husband's like, you're good at QuickBooks, you should do it. And I was like, yes, but I want to do the thing that makes my heart happy, right? Like that purposeful drivenness. And if you found that, like anybody, if you're revisiting that, when I found a way to add QuickBooks and inspiration together, which is what I love to do, it made all the difference. So like if you found that you have like one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake because some part of you isn't aligned with your business, my biggest encouragement is to find what makes you magic, which is combining whatever it is that you need that doesn't make sense, but it's who you are. And that's why you're unique and special. With, even if you do the same thing 100 other people do, you do it the way you do it. And that's when I really like our business grew, is because I started really loving what I was doing versus it just being from my mind. It was also from my heart.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I would also say, so a couple of things that we do before launch that I would give as like little golden nuggets is one of them is we always do case studies and testimonials.
Mhm.
I do them, yes, to promote, but I do them for myself. I do them to remind myself and my team of why we make a difference in the world. And the more you can enroll yourself, remind yourself, enroll your team in your vision, because you're going to have those clients that complain or people who don't make it, they don't end up implementing what you teach and they don't get the transformation. But there are the people who do. And when you can remember what you create in the world and how you truly make a difference, I watch those, I create them and I watch them before I ever start a launch. And it just shifts because I know what my purpose is. And I remind myself, because when you get to the day-to-day activities and tracking the numbers and doing this and doing that, you kind of forget why you're really doing what you're doing. And so if you haven't done it lately, get on a Zoom call with somebody that you've made a difference, ask them some questions about where they were and where they are, and watch those before you do your launches. And if you have anybody in your team, share them, because like maybe you're not doing customer service anymore, somebody else is, and they only, they don't only see the complaints, but remember that like we think that the world is made up of that 10 or 20% when it's really 80% of people are like getting transformations. Does that make sense what I'm trying to share?
Totally. Yes.
Go back. It doesn't have to be hard. If you see people saying, oh, just tell people to do a video and send it to you, and you're not getting those, that's not how we do ours. We actually get on and we talk to people and we find out their stories, and it makes it such a better experience of knowing your customers at a whole nother level and getting to see the other side of them, of like the transformation of what you were able to give and create in their life.
I love that. That has to be a total game changer when going into a launch, right? Like for the way you show up. You're like, man, if I can just impact, thousands more of this, one person I'm just talking to. And I love that.
Yeah, because sometimes your best students are the ones you don't talk to as often, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that the people who ask questions is bad, but you see them more.
True.
And then you'll get somebody who you like never even, for me anyway, like they've gone through my program, they've had a transformation. Maybe they came to a call, but like time has gone by or whatever. And they come back and they're like, I just want you to know what you've done for me, how you've created. Cause like we talk about numbers and QuickBooks, right? But it's more than QuickBooks because it impacts your quality of life. It impacts how much time you're spending with your family. They come back and they're like, now my bookkeeping takes so much less time, or now I have more time with my family, or I'm getting back into hobbies, or my husband's so excited because I'm getting this figured out. Tax time was so much easier. Those are my stories, but every one of you has a story of the transformation. And even if right now it's only one person, make sure you're living into that as much as possible to help create more of it.
Oh my gosh. Mic drop. So good. So good. Okay. We're going to get into something that I call Michelle's Hot Minute. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a few like rapid fire questions. So just answer the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
What has taken you the longest to get good or decent at?
Being a leader.
Would you rather read from a paper book or like an e-reader, like a Kindle?
Okay, I'm unique. I like both. So I like an audiobook while looking at an actual book.
Oh, look at that. I've been wanting to try that, by the way, because I do like to like highlight and make notes, but I feel like I'll go faster listening to it. Okay. What is your guilty pleasure?
I like a sweet tea in the afternoon.
What is the favorite thing that you do with your boys?
I love cuddling with them, and I love getting outside and doing something with them, whether it's ride a bicycle, play ball, that kind of thing.
What is your like most recommended personal development book?
Most recommended. Okay. So it's not a personal, I don't know if it's personal development, but the one book that I think a lot of women specifically should read is, oh no, I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's about, I'll have to tell you what it's called later, but I should have prepared better. It's about knowing your cycle and how to not blame yourself when you don't feel like doing something at different times of the month, that everybody has cycles. And there's times where you're more inspired to be doing a podcast. And there's times where it's time to do the cleanup work. I'll get it to you so you can put it in the show notes.
Is that by Kate Northup?
Yes.
I think it's called Do Less.
Do Less. Yes.
Okay. I love that book. Me too. It's like very forgiving, right? Yeah. What do you wish someone had taught you a long time ago?
to be patient, that you are on a journey and it will take a little longer than you probably expect.
Would you rather vacation at the beach or the mountains?
I live in the mountains, so I probably like to vacation at the beach.
Okay. And then what tells you most about a person?
The way they actually act and not what they say.
Love it. That was fun. Oh my gosh.
There's things there you didn't expect. That's kind of funny.
Well, I like doing this because it's more of the personal side, like so we all relate to each other. I appreciate you so much, Candus, for coming on the show today. Thank you so much. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on YouTube if you're looking for tips and tricks at Candus Kampfer, or if you'd like to get to know me, see the behind the scenes, you can find me either on Facebook or Instagram, also at Candus Kampfer.
I love it. All right, there you have it. QuickBooks and then some. Like, it was such great information about launching, all that good stuff with Candus Kampfer. Definitely go check her out. I'll show you where you can find her in the show notes. Thank you again, Candus. And until next time, let's grow your business together.